Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new NVIDIA daily update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over NVIDIA stock. Let's go over, my daily thoughts on the stock, essentially what I think will happen with the stock moving forward into the rest of the week, tomorrow, of course, and really the rest of the year/month. So with that being said and done, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed, please don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice, and I am not a financial advisor. And of course, if you do enjoy my technical analysis, thoughts in the charts, etc., updates, etc., 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 I do share my thoughts every day with my members down below in the description of the video for just $3 a month, mainly on Tesla stock and sometimes other stocks when I see opportunities, of course, or for $5 a month, you get access to everything I say that I just mentioned rather, plus NVIDIA daily updates. Again, just $5 a month or $3 a month, whichever one you want. The link is below in the description of the video for the YouTube membership. But jumping into it, NVIDIA, pretty flat day, closing just 0.2% down on the day, which compared to the market, you can argue is pretty much in line with the market, right? Also fairly flat on the day, closing at just shy of $140 per share. So let's talk about, what this means moving forward for the stock and what I personally believe will happen, in the coming days to even weeks. So you guys know that my overall, thought process on the stock as it stands right now is bullish. I am bullish on the stock. I think the stock looks actually pretty solid, but I did mention how, on Tuesday, how 140s, it could provide a bit of a resistance, right? It could provide a bit of a resistance. We could stall out a little bit here. We just had a phenomenal few days in a row. And there's a chance that we stall out around 140. We kind of go sideways. RSI was a little bit overheated. Again, my RSI is very aggressive, of course, the settings. But nonetheless, right, we can kind of, cool off a little bit. Maybe make our way down to 135 to 136. And we got pretty close to it. Today's low was about 130, high 137s, right? So, pretty close to my target there. Still wouldn't be surprised if we do go ultimately a bit lower to about 135 to 136. But obviously I'm not going to say for sure it's going to happen. The point I'm trying to make is the fact that I'm still not surprised if we continue kind of going relatively sideways just for a little bit more, a couple more days, maybe until Monday or Tuesday or something like that. Why? Because again, we're cooling off. We had a nice breakout, nice move to the upside, and now just even going sideways here is not a bad sign. Why? Because we're letting the technicals catch up, right? So what do I mean by that is, we had this move up, right? So obviously both bands were red, the EMA band and the market bias, both red. So what did we do? We ended up having a beautiful bounce. It broke out of this downwards resistance, right? Which is all good news, of course. And now we're slowly but surely, not yet, but we're getting there, trying to turn the bands green. And the way we can do that is obviously either just really continuing to go up or even just having this move up and then relatively going sideways is good, because that'll give the time for the bands to kind of catch up and then slowly make that flip to green, essentially, right? And that's essentially what's happening right now on the daily chart, slowly but surely. You can see it a bit more evidently on the 4-hour chart, for instance, with this band here. You can see after that breakout on the 4-hour chart, came back right into the band on the 4-hour, and we turned it so far into support, and it also flipped back to green. Now, obviously, there can be false alarms. Like, for instance, we had one false alarm over here on the 4-hour chart, including with the market bias. So it's not perfect, of course, but the fact that we broke out of this downward trend line is, in my opinion, what's the more kind of promising sign. Now, again, the 4-hour is also showing the RSI a little bit overheated. So don't be surprised if we make a move down, maybe even as early as tomorrow or Monday, 136-ish. That'll be my main target to the downside if, of course, it were to occur. But again, as long as we hold the mid 130s, I'm still very bullish, and I think the stock is still setting up pretty beautifully moving into really the rest of the year, post that potential mini correction, if you will, and into January. I think it's still looking quite good as long as we hold the mid-ish 130s. So that's one way to look at it. Another way is, of course, the Bollinger Bands, right? I mentioned on the Bollinger Bands how on Tuesday, we hit the top of the Bollinger Band, right? And that also could be another reason why we stall around this 140 area, find some resistance, and relatively go sideways, if not maybe slowly bleed to the downside, which again, pretty much exactly what's happening. So that's another reason why I think this is happening, right? So expect maybe a couple more days of this, potentially kind of boring price action, to be completely honest with you, but it's not always a bad sign considering we had some pretty aggressive sell-off price action, nice recovery, a little bit of sideways quote-unquote correction / maybe slow bleed, and then I think we continue upwards post that, as long as, of course, we hold that key level around the mid 130. So that's probably the main way I'm looking at it. Going to the daily chart, you can see, we're pretty much right in the middle of the Bollinger Bands, right? We're not, we're above the middle point, which is a good sign, but nonetheless, we're pretty much right in the neutral spot of the Bollinger Bands. We're not overbought, and we're not anymore oversold on the Bollinger Bands, right? So we're just kind of going sideways. In my opinion, what I think the stock is doing is it's kind of just re-gearing up essentially and getting ready for that next move, because we have the MACD with a nice bullish flip on the daily chart, which is of course a good sign. We haven't had that bullish flip ever since all the way back up here, which is good. And the stochastic also with a nice little bullish flip as well. Pretty much my only concern right now is the fact that the RSI is a little bit overbought, and of course the 4-hour Bollinger Bands show us close to the overbought, resistance type range, if you will, of the band. So yeah, I'm just kind of waiting for it. I sold calls against my shares, right, just to collect some extra premium while we stall out here, so it's not just sitting there doing literally nothing, which at this point tomorrow should expire worthless unless we happen to rock it up tomorrow. Maybe I'll close it in the morning. It's probably not worth keeping for that small extra profit, honestly. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing. And if I do see NVIDIA move down to about the mid 130s, I'm either going to pick up a bit more shares, or at the very least sell a cash secured put, probably pretty far one out as well, maybe like a month out, because I do believe that this should be more or less the bottom for the stock before the next parabolic move higher. So I'm still kind of undecided how I want to play it. But nonetheless, the point is the fact that that's my general consensus, right? Sideways / slow bleed, and then we ultimately make our way higher. And at the very least, in my opinion, we retest all-time highs sitting at around $150 per share. But if things go as planned and as I personally expect them to, I do believe ultimately sometime in maybe mid-January or so, we should break all-time highs and, in my opinion, make fresh all-time highs and ultimately, head higher, essentially is what I'm trying to say, right? Ultimately head higher. And I really wouldn't be surprised if sometime in mid-ish January, we're even into the 160s. That actually would not fully surprise me, which even from here, it will be a nice looking percentage gain of about, 15-ish%. Not too bad at all, right? It's a very handsome potential, upside target, if you will, assuming it plays out the way I'm, expecting it to at least. So that's probably the main way I'm looking at NVIDIA right now moving forward, right? Again, very simple, to the point, not too complicated in my opinion. Just it is what it is, right? That's just what I'm seeing. The weekly chart you can see still looks pretty solid with the Bollinger Bands, especially right in the middle, not overbought or oversold. Nice in the middle spot right here, which is beautiful. Right above the bands as well, you can see right above the band, the EMA band, above the market bias. We're still holding this area that was, of course, a massive resistance, and we're essentially still turning this general vicinity into a support. It's looking good. It's still looking pretty solid in my opinion. I think it's looking pretty solid. I think there's nothing to worry about unless, of course, we start losing the mid 130s. Then I'm going to be a little bit more worried or less confident of the bullish thesis. But as long as that's maintained, I think it's looking pretty good. We had a nice push up on higher volume. You can see here as the volume now is kind of moving down and pretty much dead, to be completely honest with you. No, of course, it is, of course, the holidays. Keep that in mind. It's pretty expected, right? It's pretty good to see a move up on slightly elevated volume. And then, as we're kind of consolidating here, we're lowering the volume, which tells me that we're essentially, we're getting ready for that next move higher. And at least it should be higher based on how this looks like, because we also could be making a small little tiny bull flag here. Go to the 1 hour chart. Let me remove the Bollinger Bands for now. Let's take a quick look at this on the 1 hour chart, right? You can also make an argument the fact that we're, roughly making what could be something along the lines of a potential, little bull flaggy type action over here, roughly like this. I'm not, obviously this is not drawn to perfection, but just to give you a rough demonstration, right? It could be like this, maybe it'll look something like this, right? I don't know. But the point is the fact that we're looking like we're making what looks to be a small bull flag with the potential for one more move to the downside. Like I said, 135, 136. But again, as long as we hold that, I'm bullish. I am still bullish on the stock. I still think the stock looks phenomenal. And I think it's just getting ready. Yeah, so that's my overall thought process. Let's take a look at options flow on Cheddar Flow, which, by the way, great option service if you want to use it for yourself. I have a link to it down below with a discount if you use my code. But yeah, options flow is a little bit on the slower end. Nice little, two main bullish calls came in today. 140 call, which is arguably slightly out of the money, ever so slightly, but nonetheless still technically out of the money. 2.3 million, 2.6 million calls above the axe that came in today on NVIDIA when NVIDIA was trading at pretty much almost 139. So very close to where we are right now, to be honest, only $1 off, but they were both technically out of the money and they were both above the ask, and they're both for just January 17th, 2025. That to me is a good sign. I like to see that. That's pretty bullish in my opinion. So nice sign to see. Good to see the bulls are stepping in here. And yeah, let's see how this plays out. I honestly do agree with this. I do think that moving into January, we should move up pretty nicely, in my opinion. So let's see if that ends up actually happening or not. In terms of actual confirmed options flow on NVIDIA, I don't really see, unless I'm blind, but I don't think I see NVIDIA anywhere in the bullish flow. Yeah, I don't think I see it anywhere here. I'll take one more look in the bullish flow here. Moderna, CBR team, Uber, MicroStrategy, Baba, Pepsi. I don't see it anywhere here, so who knows? But nonetheless, good to see this. I like to see this regardless of the way it looks. And yeah, let's see what happens moving forward. Still think the stock looks great. Still bullish. I see no issues so far, but don't be surprised if we see 136 to 135, potentially as early as tomorrow. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. See you tomorrow. Peace.